Welcome to Accounting 100 Practicum Week 4, Employers and Payroll Taxes. These are the basic forms required for employer taxes and reporting. Our lesson this week will cover each of the forms listed here, but this list is not all-inclusive. There could be additional forms that are required from a business based on their location, their state, or their type of industry. These forms are also subject to change and to being updated. We will begin with the IRS form SS4, used to apply for the employer identification number. New businesses must have either a Social Security number or an individual tax ID number. If they are an employer of one or more persons, the business is required to have an employer ID number, otherwise known as an EIN. It will be used on all the reports and payments of federal income tax withholdings and state taxes. This form is very brief to complete, and you can call the IRS directly for assistance in filling it out. As we discussed in last week's lesson on employees, employers also must pay their share of FICA taxes, which includes Social Security and Medicare tax. The rates are the same as the amount applied to be withheld from the employer's check. Accountants can obtain the taxable earnings amounts from the payroll register. The Form 941, Employer's Quarterly Federal Tax Return, is used to report the tax liability for withholding of employees' federal income tax and for the FICA taxes. It includes both the employee and the employer portion of the FICA taxes. This form and other federal forms and their instructions can be located online at www.irs.gov. Here is an example of the top half of the first page of the Form 941. Please note that the employer identification number is the first number required for the form. This form was also prepared for the fourth quarter. You can see that in the box at the right, as it is checked for the October, November, December quarter. Most of the data required for this form can be obtained from the company's payroll register. Here is an illustration of another section of the first page of the Form 941. You can see the calculations for the employer and employee share of Social Security taxes, and it is combined with the employee's federal withholding tax to come up with a total liability. Deposits are also shown here on this section of the report. Small businesses sometimes use accounting software that can calculate and prepare these forms from their payroll module. So, the employer's payroll tax expense is based on the gross wages paid to employees. These taxes are an expense of doing business, and the company would record them as shown below in the T-account illustration. We will look at an example of a journal entry to record employer's payroll tax expense at the end of this PowerPoint. You may want to pause here on this slide and have a closer look at the debits and credits required for payroll tax expense. The state unemployment tax in Arizona is levied and paid to Arizona Department of Economic Security. You can go to the website des.az.gov for more information on state unemployment tax. Pause the PowerPoint for the next couple of slides to get more information on how the tax is calculated and what it is for. The IRS Form 940 is used to summarize and pay any past due federal unemployment tax that hasn't been paid during the calendar year. Arizona companies that pay their state unemployment tax will get a credit that results in a reduction of the federal unemployment tax rate. So typically, Arizona employers pay a maximum of about $56 per employee. The other annual forms that are required from the IRS are the Form W-2 and the Form W-3. Each employee receives a Form W-2 at the end of the year. This is used to report the employee earnings to the government, as well as to assist the taxpayer in the preparation of their individual tax return. Here is an example of the wage and tax statement, the Form W-2, that is furnished by an employer to the employee. The IRS Form W-3 is simply a transmittal of the wage and tax statements. So the Form W-3 accompanies all the copies of their employees' W-2s to the Social Security Administration. Here is the example of a payroll tax journal entry mentioned earlier in this PowerPoint. The payroll tax expenses include the FICA taxes payable, the state unemployment taxes payable, and the federal unemployment taxes payable. This journal entry will record the employer's share of all of these taxes. Remember, state unemployment tax and federal unemployment tax is only paid by the employer. The employee has no responsibility to pay these taxes. Be sure to go back to the module to complete the quiz for Practicum Week 4. All of the answers to the quiz can be found in this PowerPoint.